So even in snowy weather, even though it's not dark, you should, anytime you're faced with the idea of putting your wipers on, pretty good idea to put your headlights on at the same time, and that's front and rear. Your car may have daytime running lights. That's not good enough. You want to make sure the rear lights are illuminated too. See and be seen is what we've been saying for a long time, but you don't want to disappear in the snow, and having your lights on gives you more visibility to other people around you on the road. So it's important to do that. Massachusetts, for the longest time, didn't really have a law that said lights on with wipers. They had a law that said during times of low visibility or inclement condition, you should have your headlights on. But they passed a law a few years ago that very specifically that said when your lights are on, when your wipers are on, your lights should be on. We'll go over some of the things we'll go over today about how to improve our driving skills, some proper car maintenance, emergency supplies, what to keep in your car, and how to get out of a bad weather jam if it comes up. So when I do this in person, I usually ask this question: winter in New England is? And some people say it's beautiful, it's delightful. I love winter in New England. Other people say, I don't know why I live here, I hate it. Then usually I'll ask the scariest winter driving experience I've had is, and I will tell you mine, and I'll tell you two. One, I was driving home from work. They let us out of work a little bit early one day. This was a couple of years ago. I drive about 50 different vehicles a year. I was fortunate enough to be in a Range Rover, so arguably one of the best SUVs in the world, certainly close to being one of the most expensive, and one that can handle winter really well. Yeah, it could handle winter really well. It couldn't handle limited visibility. And this day, it was such a whiteout day. And it wasn't the fact that I couldn't see that well. The other issue was people were just driving too fast for the road conditions, and they couldn't see either. And like I said, I commute about almost 50 miles each way back and forth to work. And on my drive coming home, I was going probably 30 miles an hour, maybe even 20 miles an hour out on the highway because I couldn't see very far ahead, and I couldn't see far enough ahead to make an emergency maneuver if I had to. So I had to slow my speed down so I could make up for that. People were passing me, and those were the people I would see spinning out of control. So it was not, the scary part wasn't the limited visibility. The scary part was the other people on the road who were driving too fast for the conditions they were in. The other scary one was myself and a coworker. I'm involved with the Massachusetts Police Chiefs Association and the Massachusetts Safety Officers League. And myself and a coworker were going to a fancy luncheon meeting for the Police Chiefs Association in Falmouth. From Providence, Rhode Island to Falmouth is about an hour and 45 minutes. We gave ourselves about an hour, about 2 hours to get to the meeting. We got there about 15 minutes early, and we had our meeting, and they served us a lunch, and the lunch was some sort of shrimp and pasta thing. And my coworker has a shellfish allergy. So she said, oh, can I get something else, vegetarian or the pasta without the shrimp on it because I'm allergic? And they brought her back pasta without the shrimp on it. And her concern was they just took the shrimp off the pasta and she was going to still have an allergic reaction. Well, around 1:45, they ended the meeting early because it was starting to snow. And we started to head back to the office. It took us about an hour and 45 minutes to get there. We left the meeting about 1:45. We got back to Providence, Rhode Island at 7:30. And my concern was, besides the slow driving and the bad road conditions, was my coworker was going to go into like anaphylactic shock from the seafood allergy. Fortunately, nothing bad happened at all, other than it took us an extremely long time to get back to work. So I think those were my two scariest winter driving experiences. Maybe when we get done, we'll hear what yours are. Tires are one of the most important things for your car. A lot of people think of tires as they give you the traction to get moving. Also, they give you the traction to stop. And it's important to check the tire tread, the tire pressure, and also if you need to be out early in the morning, if you need to be out before the snowplows are out, consider winter tires, and I'll show you why in just a minute. But think of your tires as your car's shoes, you know, and you wouldn't go out with flip-flops on in the wintertime, and you probably wouldn't go out with winter boots on in the summertime. So your tires should be somewhat versatile. The picture here shows checking tread depth with a penny. That's what we always used to say. Take a penny, put it in the tread across the tires. If the tread doesn't come up to at least Lincoln's head, you should replace the tires. That means they're down to 2/32 of tread, so just about completely worn out. In fact, illegal in almost every state. On the picture on the left shows a quarter. And the difference, and now what we say is use a quarter, measure the tread all the way across with the quarter, and if the tread doesn't come up to at least Washington's head, replace the tires. And the reason behind that is the difference between those two tires in wet condition can be 50, 60, 70 feet of stopping distance. So just a little bit of extra tread in the tires can make your car that much safer. This picture, and hopefully you can see it, shows a typical stop from 60 miles an hour on dry pavement with all-season tires. The next line under it, wet pavement with all-season tires, about 143 feet. And these are good tires. The next picture down is snowy pavement with winter tires. And it shows that it takes that same car about from 60 miles an hour with winter tires, what we always used to call snow tires, 310 feet. Those same all-season tires in that same snowy condition, more than twice the stopping distance. So you think you're in good shape, you just bought a new car, it has 4 all-season tires on it, but on snowy pavement, it could take twice the distance to stop in those weather conditions. So all-season tires are a compromise. They're not. If you went to buy all-season tires at your local tire store in Danvers, and you went in and you said, I want 4 brand new Goodyear all-season tires, they'd sell you 4 Goodyear all-season tires. If you went into the tire store in Orlando, Florida, the same Goodyear store, and said, I want 4 Goodyear all-season tires, they would sell you 4 Goodyear all-season tires, exactly the same tire. So that same tire that has to be a jack of all trades in New England winter is also a jack of all trades in Florida year-round conditions. So an all-season tire is by definition a compromise. It's going to be okay in the winter, it's going to be okay in the summer, it's going to be okay in the spring and the fall, but it's not going to be fantastic in any one of those conditions. And if you have to be out early in the morning, again, before the snow plows, you live on the top of a glacier, you have to be out, and it's important for you to be out. There is nothing like putting 4 winter tires on your car to get the best traction. Lights, and this is all about the preparation. Make sure your headlights, brake lights, tail lights all work. Clean and replace any headlights if they don't seem as bright as they should be. Some studies that we have done with AAA is just about 1 out of every 5 vehicles on the road has a headlight or tail light out. And back to tires for a minute, 1 out of every 4 cars on the road has a low or worn tire. So it's important to check your tires often. Check the tire pressure on the tread. Checking the tire pressure once a month is a good idea, just to make sure. In cold weather, when the temperature drops 10 degrees, you lose about 1 pound of air pressure. So that's why when you get a nice day, it's 40, 45 degrees, and then all of a sudden, like it was on Sunday, it dropped down to 7 degrees, and you may have a low tire light that come on if you have a tire pressure warning system in your car, and all of a sudden you're like, do I have a low tire? And you look and yeah, because the tire pressure changes because of the temperature of the air. Brakes, it's going to take longer to make a full stop in ice and snow. Again, tires are the big ingredient with that. Tires are the only part of your car to ever touch the ground. So it's important they have to be in really, really good shape. Heating and cooling system, you want to check the exhaust for leaks to make sure that if you do get stuck in the snow and snow builds up around the back of the car, that if there was a hole in the muffler, that exhaust could come up inside the car. You want to make sure the engine coolant, the antifreeze, is in good shape. An even mixture of antifreeze and water brings the coolant temperature down to minus 34 degrees. It's not going to get any colder than that in Danvers, so you don't have to worry about that. Wind chill that you hear talked about on the news a lot affects you, but it doesn't affect your car. So you might hear on a very, very cold day with 50-mile-an-hour winds, the wind chill is, the equivalent of minus 50 degrees. Your car doesn't care about that. You do, but your car doesn't. So it's whatever the real temperature is, not the real field temperature. So you don't have to worry about that. Your heater, you want to make sure the heater works the way it's supposed to, because it's not just keeping you comfortable, it's also cleaning the windshield from snow and ice. And you want to make sure the heat warms up quickly and efficiently. You may find that, as your car gets older, you have to flush out the cooling system and check the heater and make sure it's working properly. There's a part called an engine thermostat that keeps the engine warmed up and operating the way it should. Windshield wipers, make sure they work the way they're supposed to. Clean your windows inside and out. Cars today give off a lot of gas from inside the car. All the plastic and foam and rubber that goes into the production of your vehicle actually gives off, it's called outgassing, and it gives off this film that builds up in the inside of the window. The dirtier your windows are, the more glare you have. And on some of these winter days when the sun is low in the horizon, when we do have sun, you get a lot of glare inside the car. And a lot of that's caused by just having a dirty windshield. Windshield washer, always carry extra fluid with you. Make sure the windshield washer works the way it's supposed to. Sometimes you might have topped off, someone may have topped off your windshield washer with fluid that's not ready for the winter time. Maybe you had an oil change done in the summertime and they didn't put in washer fluid that's good to 30 below zero. And you didn't drive your car very much. And maybe their thoughts were, we don't have to put in winter condition wiper fluid because by the time winter rolls around, you're going to refill your wiper fluid anyway. I was in a discount store one day and it was hard to buy windshield washer that year for whatever reason. And the store had a ton of windshield washer, but I looked on it and it said good to 32 degrees. So that windshield wiper fluid was probably designed for southern states, and they probably imported it up here to the Northeast. Well, what happens is that's going to freeze in the wintertime. It may not freeze solid, but it's not going to squirt when you want it to squirt out and clean the window. I was watching someone the other day, and apparently their windshield washer was broken because they had a bottle of what looked like windshield washer in a spray bottle. And they turned their wipers on and they got out and they sprayed the windshield with whatever it was. Again, it looked like windshield washer. So it wouldn't freeze, but also so they could clean the windows. Windshield wiper blades, consider installing winter blades or all-season blades. The picture shows a traditional windshield wiper blade on the left, and you can see the little fingers and under the blade. And on the right-hand side, it shows what looks like a covering over the windshield wiper or a beam-style blade. And what that does, it keeps the snow and ice from building up under the windshield wiper blades. They're a little more expensive, but they do a better job in wintertime. They don't build up with snow and ice. If you've ever been driving in a snowstorm and you've had your windshield wipers just freeze and lift right off the windshield, that's because the snow and ice builds up right in this framework area, and it doesn't in the unibeam blades or the hybrid blades. Those are the kind of wiper blades I use on my car, and they work out really well. Clean off your car, please. This is a little bit of an exaggeration, but it's a true picture. There is no specific law in Massachusetts that says you need to clean the snow off your car. You are responsible for what happens when snow blows off of your car. No different than if you had a mattress tied to the roof of your car and it blew off and it damaged someone else's vehicle, you're responsible for that. In other states like Connecticut and Pennsylvania, They actually have a very specific laws that say you have to clean the snow off your car. New Hampshire, some of the counties have their own laws that say you have to clean all the snow off your car. But do it. It makes sense. And the other thing, this person obviously didn't want to, or they wanted to, get on Facebook and YouTube or something with a ton of snow on the roof of their car. But people think, oh, well, the snow is just going to blow off. It's going to slide off behind the car. Well, what can also happen is as the car warms up and you step on the brakes, all that snow is going to slide forward. It's going to cover your windshield. You're not going to be able to see where you're going. Your first instinct is going to be to turn the windshield wipers on. Well, the windshield wipers would never be able to clear that, wouldn't be able to clear a tenth of that much snow. And what could happen is you'll damage the windshield wipers. Either there's a part called the transmission, which is the part that pushes the windshield wipers back and forth, or the windshield wiper motor. If you're lucky, you'll just burn out a fuse. If you're unlucky, you'll burn out the windshield wiper motor or break the wiper transmission. And all of a sudden, your laziness costs you $500 or $600, sometimes even more, to get the wipers fixed again. And you're faced with the fact that you didn't clean the snow off your car. Your car is covered with snow now, and your windshield wipers are broken. So clean all the snow off your car. You can do it pretty easily. A good long handle snow brush. We have one of those long handle snow brushes in each one of our cars. This thing on the right is called, that one in particular is called the Snow Broom, B-R-U-M. And it was, that particular brand was actually invented by a guy in Worcester. That's the one I have in my car. Or I shouldn't say that. That's the one I have on my back stairs. So when it snows, I just go out and I push or pull the snow off the car. It cleans the car off really, really easily. And because it's styrofoam, it doesn't do any damage, so you don't have to worry. Never use a shovel to clean your car unless you just hate your car and you want to scratch it. But I have a long-handled snow brush in both of our cars. I also, when I haven't been to work in 11 months, but I also have one at my desk at work, and people come in and they laugh. And they're like, what do you have a snow brush inside the office for? Because when it snows during the day, what's the common thing, especially if you drive a sedan? You have your snow brush in the back seat or somewhere in the car, usually the back seat, it seems like, and you open up the door and all the snow falls inside the car. So I walk out with my snow brush, clean off the car first, and then I can get out my long handle brush and do a little bit better job afterwards. So I always keep snow brushes everywhere. I tend to hang on to them for a while. I've tried some of the kind of latest, greatest ones. There's different types out there. People come out with a new invention every once in a while. I find just a regular plain old snow brush. This bottom picture on the right, it's kind of a neat snow brush because you can turn it on an angle to clear up and down. You can turn it this way to make it like a little, like a snow broom, like the styrofoam one. But either way, it's an easy way to clean the snow off your car. And, it should be your responsibility to make sure your car is clean, and clean everywhere. Clean the roof, the trunk, the hood, and all the lights, and the license plate too, because driving with an obscured license plate, you can actually get a ticket for that. So clean all the snow off of everything. Dress appropriately. I don't know if you can see what it says under the picture, but it says, poor kid can't move, he's paraplegic. Don't overdress for the wintertime. If you go out and you're bundled up and so much that you can't move, you're not going to be able to make an evasive maneuver in the wintertime. I like good mittens to like shovel snow with. They're great to keep your hands warm. They're not good for driving. You're better off with a good pair of gloves for driving, if you are going to wear gloves at all, if your car's cold and you don't want to. I was just in a store a couple weeks ago, and by the register, they had a whole bunch of fuzzy steering wheel covers, and it said perfect for cold weather driving. I don't really like them because I think they fall off. So they're kind of one size fits all, which means they don't usually fit everything correctly. And I don't want to have this fuzzy steering wheel cover that's going to fall off my steering wheel. Floor mats, some people don't want to get their floor mats dirty in their car, so they go out and buy some carpet squares and put them on top of their floor mats so their floor mats don't get dirty. Not a great idea, because now all of a sudden you have a mat that's going to slide around. If you put winter mats in your car, take out the regular carpeted ones and put the heavy rubber ones in. Don't stack them on top of each other. If you remember years ago, there was an issue with some Toyota vehicles with acceleration issues. They said they were accelerating out of control. The ones that I saw afterwards had floor mats stacked on top of each other, and they were literally getting stuck under the gas pedal and brake pedal. And that was part of the reason. It wasn't a computer issue with the vehicle at all. It was a kind of a driver issue. Some things you could keep in your car in the wintertime: a cell phone and charger. Too often today that we use our cell phone for everything. We use it as a flashlight. We use it for to take pictures. We use it just to kill time if we're waiting for help or we're broken down. But you want to make sure you have a cell phone, and you want to make sure you have the charger for you, because you don't want to run the battery down when you need it in case of an emergency. Flares or reflective triangles, something that can get people's attention if you're broken down. Traction mats, sand, kitty litter, something to give you traction if you get stuck. I've even used my floor mats in my car to put under the drive wheels, or actually floor mats on someone else's car, when they were stuck, to put under the drive wheels. So if you have a wheel that's spinning, put the floor mat under there. That's going to actually give you a little bit of traction, maybe get you moving. There was an article in one of the New York papers, either yesterday or today, about somebody who was stuck in the snow, and they were revving and revving and revving the engine, trying to get unstuck, and the car actually caught on fire. So if you do get stuck in the snow, slowly rock the car back and forth. Don't accelerate wildly. A snow brush or a good ice scraper, flashlight, and batteries. Again, people use their cell phone. I have a little, in both of our family cars, we have portable air compressors. So in case you get a low tire, you can pump up the tire. And I also have a portable jump start pack. So rather than jumper cables, it's about the size of a hardcover book. You plug in jumper cables to it, and you can actually jump start your car. So just in case of emergency, there's one in each car. In case I do something stupid, like leave my lights on, leave a door open, something like that, the battery goes dead, I can jump start my own car. Of course, I can call AAA, but I'd rather jump start it myself. Extra windshield washer solution and first aid kit, just in case, you never know. And we were talking earlier about, this is almost the anniversary of the blizzard of '78, where people are stuck in their cars for days. In your first aid kit or your emergency kit, some snacks in case you do get stuck, and some things that isn't going to go bad, granola, energy bars, things like that. Sports drink typically doesn't freeze, so you can something to keep in your car. Also, if you need any medication for any reason, a little bit of medication, just a couple of spare pills or whatever it is, in your first aid kit. Always plan for the worst and hope for the best. So you're not going to plan to get stuck in the snow for 2 days and hope it never happens. But it did happen, the blizzard of '78. It's happened a couple times since then, where people were just stuck out on the highway and they couldn't get going. And the other thing is, before you head out on the road, always make sure you have at least a half a tank of gas, because you don't want to go out all of a sudden have the weather turn bad, like our drive from Falmouth to Providence. All of a sudden we're stuck in traffic for 5 or 6 hours. If we went out with just a half a tank of gas, by the time we left Falmouth to come back, we'd only have a quarter of a tank of gas. We would have run out of gas out in the highway. So always keep at least a half a tank of gas. Reduce your risk, slow down your speed by 30% or more. So if you hear the announcements out on the Mass Pike speed limit down to 40 miles an hour. Well, at least 40 miles an hour, maybe even slower. Slow down before entering curves, because that's where skids are going to happen. We talk about safe following distance. On a good day, and you probably heard when you took driver's ed, if you ever did, leave 1 car length for every 10 miles an hour on the highway. That's not a good indicator, because it's nobody really knows what a car length is. Is it a Mini Cooper or is it a Chevy Suburban? What we rather say is measure distance in time. So when the car in front of you goes past a fixed object like a telephone pole or a shadow in the road or something like that, it should, on a good day, it should take you about 3 seconds to pass that same shadow. On a really lousy day where it's snowing and sleeting and raining, you should leave at least 8 to 10 seconds of following distance. That's going to give you time to react. It's also going to give you time, if the roads are slippery, to come to a safe stop. Stay in the lane that's clear. A lot of times on my commute back and forth from my house to Providence, maybe the right lane would be pretty clear, the middle lane would be maybe a little bit snowy, and the left lane would be all snow covered. Well, you get somebody who feels like they can drive anywhere, they get in the left lane, they get going 40, 50, 60 miles an hour. Next thing you know, they lose control and end up, sliding into them. If they're lucky, they just slide into the median between the north and south lanes. If they're unlucky, they're sliding back into traffic. So stay in the lane that's clear. Even if it's going slow, stay in the lane that's clear. You're always better off going slow and steady than trying to be fast and take a chance. Be cautious of black ice. Black ice happens when we get a thin layer of moisture that freezes overnight. It looks like plain pavement until you start to slip on it. And again, on a snowy road, it could take you 600 feet to stop. So on black ice is the same way. No cruise control ever on snowy or wet roads. It can cause a car to skid. And be aware that bridges, overpasses, and underpasses, they're the ones that are going to freeze first because they don't have the heat from the earth that's going to melt any of that ice. They're going to be the ones that get the black ice first too. Brake progressively well before the intersection. So if you see an intersection coming up, or you see something happen on the roadway way up ahead because you're looking, you're following 8 to 10 seconds from someone in front of you, but you're scanning 20 seconds or 30 seconds ahead. So you're looking well down the roadway and you see something happen, a car spin out of control. Slow down before you need to stop. So in other words, easy on the brake, bring the car slowly to a stop. Don't panic and jam on the brakes because then you could run into a skid. So smooth and steady, slow down before entering curves. So again, get your speed down before going into. Keep that, space cushion between you and the cars in front of you. And again, be cautious of black ice and all that. So you've slid, what do you do now? You're stuck in the snow. Well, first off, if you're sliding and your car has anti-lock brakes, and nearly every car does, steady brake pressure. Don't pump the brakes. You probably learned years ago that you should pump the brakes if you get into a skid, not if your car has anti-lock brakes. And if you're driving a car that's newer than, newer than the last 25 years, it probably has anti-lock brakes. And when you turn the key on, you'll see ABS come up on the dash. That means your car has anti-lock brakes. So don't pump the brake. Maintain constant brake pressure. You will hear noises. You'll hear chattering. It's perfectly normal. Whether your car has anti-lock brakes or not, if you own one of those cars that doesn't, keep your heel on the floor and your toes on the brake. So in other words, use your toes and the ball of your foot. That's going to give you good, easy control brake pressure. And, don't go crazy out in the parking lot. But if you find a snowy parking lot with a little bit of snow on it, practice winter driving and braking. So get going 20 miles an hour, jam on the brakes, feel what the car is going to, feel like in the wintertime, in snowy conditions where you can't get hurt, where you're not going to get into trouble. So find a big, school parking lot or something that hasn't been plowed yet, get going 15 or 20 miles an hour, jam on the brakes and see what it feels like. So it won't be a surprise the first time it happens. There's a school called the In Control Advanced Driver Training School or In Control Family Foundation, and they actually teach a winter driving class. And that's what part of it is they teach people what their car is going to feel like in the wintertime. So if you do get stuck in the snow, first off, straighten the wheels. So get the wheels good and straight, because if they're turned, it's just going to be harder for the wheels with traction to get moving. Apply the gas slowly. Rock yourself out. So put your car into drive, go as far as you can go, step on the brake, stop. Put the car in reverse, back up, step on the brake, stop. You don't want to be just jamming it from reverse to drive, drive to reverse with the engine spinning because you'll damage the transmission. You can overheat the transmission fluid and actually do mechanical damage to the transmission, to the gears, by slamming it back and forth between gears. So slowly rock yourself out. Use traction mats, sand, kitty litter, your floor mats, anything you can get to give your car a little bit of extra traction. And sometimes you're just not going to get unstuck. And sometimes you're going to need to have somebody come with a tow truck and yank you out of the snow. But a lot of times with a little bit of patience. And the other thing I always carry with me in the wintertime is a snow shovel. I have a little collapsible one. It folds up. It fits in the trunk of my car. And if you do get stuck, you can at least use that to shovel some snow to try to get it away from the drive wheels. And in a lot of cases, if you're stuck in the snow, if you can shovel around the drive wheels, so if this car, a front wheel drive car, maybe you can just shovel around the front wheels, and that's going to give you enough traction to get moving so you can kind of push your way through the snow in the back of the car. If you're going up hills, often I see people get stuck partway up the hill. Well, if it's a slippery, snowy hill, kind of wait. If you're looking at a light that's changing, wait at the bottom of the hill a little bit. Wait for that light to change. Because, on average, what can go through a set of lights? 6 or 7 cars, maybe? Well, if you see there's 12 cars ahead of you, well, you're not going to make that light, and you're going to be stuck halfway in the hill. You're going to try to accelerate. You're probably going to get stuck. Maybe you're going to slide backwards into the car behind you that followed you up the hill. So kind of time the light the best you can, or if there's no light, slowly gain momentum going up the hill. Don't stop. Keep moving. So you don't lose traction. Steady speed up to the crest, and slow down going down the hill. And going down the hill, foot off the accelerator, but don't step on the brakes, because then you might get into another skidding condition. So reduce your speed going down. Again, foot off the accelerator. Use minimal braking going down the hill, because when you step on the brakes, all the weight transfers to the front wheels. That's good. It gives you steering control, but it makes the back of the car lighter, and you can actually start to spin around and actually get in a spinning condition. So what do you do when you get into a skid? Well, again, if you ever took that driver ed class, they always say steer in the direction of the skid. What does that mean? Is it skid in the front? Is it in the back? What does it really mean? Well, steering in the direction of the skid, ignore that. What you should do is take your foot off the brake, look and steer where you want the car to go, not look and steering where you want the car to go. Remind me to fix that. Look and steer where you want the car to go. And once you regain traction, slowly apply the gas. And the hardest thing of all of that to do is don't panic. So if your car is, you were going down the road and you wanted to turn right, and your car's skidding straight, you want to take your foot off the gas. You want to look where you wanted the car to go. And why I say look, because your hands tend to follow your eyes. So if you're staring at the car coming the other way, you're not going to tend to turn the steering wheel where you want the car to go. And if you don't believe your hands follow your eyes, nice day, you're driving down the road, you see something by the side of the road that catches your attention. Next thing you know, you're drifting over to that side of the road. It's just normal. So take your foot off the brake, look and steer where you want to go, where you want the car to go. And once you regain traction, slowly step on the gas again. And again, don't panic. That's the hardest thing, but don't panic. Front wheel drive versus all wheel drive. All wheel drive is really good at getting you stuck further into snow. Front wheel drive, like I said, I commute 50 miles back and forth each way to work. So 100 miles round trip just about. And I've done it in front wheel drive cars, rear wheel drive cars, and all wheel drive cars. And what happens with all wheel drive, people tend to take too many chances, and that's what gets them stuck in the snow. Make sure you wear your seatbelt. Everybody in the car wears their seatbelt, hands on the wheel. This is not driving in bad weather. It's not the time you want to be looking at your phone and doing other stuff in your car. Not the time you want to be eating. You want to concentrate on driving. Make sure your head restraint. Some people call it a headrest, but it's really a head restraint. Make sure it's positioned properly. The middle of the head restraint should be at the middle of your head. So kind of catching your head prevents whiplash. And adjust your seat so you're comfortable, but not leaning way back. where you don't have good visibility, you're not maybe straight up and down. So somewhere in between where you're comfortable, where you're sitting a good 8 to 10 inches away from the steering wheel, that in case of airbag deployment, that's going to keep you at a safe distance. And again, make sure you wear your seatbelt. And if your car breaks down and you're in your car, make sure you have your seatbelt on just in case your car gets hit while it's parked. You want to make sure you're protected with your seatbelt. And finally, maybe the best thing to do is just don't drive in bad weather. If you don't have to be out, if it's an appointment you can change it. Don't go out in bad weather if you don't have to. It's not worth the risk. That's my email, jpaul@aaanortheast.com. That's how you get through to me if you want to get a hold of me. Or you can go to AAA.com/cardoctor, and I answer every single question I get. And I try to answer them all the same day. So always happy to answer people's questions. So that's our little bit of a PowerPoint. If you have a specific question, you can email me, or you can unmute yourself now. I'd be happy to answer any questions. Going once, going twice.
Questions?
Nope.
That's how thorough your presentation is.
Or else everybody fell asleep. One or the other.
I have a question. One of our guests had to leave early. Do you have handouts or a copy of your presentation that we could send out to everyone, or at least to the person who had to leave early?
I can email them the PowerPoint.
You could send it to me, and I have everybody's email addresses, so I can send it out.
Could you just do me a favor? Can you email me and remind me?
Yes.
Okay.
I will do that.
So, and since you were nice enough to type in my email, you already know what it is. So, yeah.
Well, that way people can copy and paste it.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I'd be happy to do that. And anybody else thinks it's they would like it, I'd be happy to email it to them as well. So, anybody have a question?
Yes, I have a rear-wheel drive car. Do you have any particular advice for that?
You have a rear wheel? What kind of car do you have?
1990 Volvo 240 DL.
Look at you. See, well, first off, Volvos are made in Sweden, and it snows a lot in Sweden, so it's already a good winter car. But my biggest bit of advice for that car would be snow tires, winter tires. So a good set of something like Blizzaks or something that will give you that extra traction for the winter. When I first started to review cars years and years ago, Volvos were only rear-wheel drive cars, just like yours. And when we would get a Volvo to review and it came in the wintertime, it always had 4 winter tires on it. And I was amazed at how good those cars were in the wintertime. So a good set of 4 winter tires will give you the traction to get moving. And more importantly, it'll give you the traction for stopping. People think about winter tires as to get you moving, but it's just important to get you to stop. So good set of winter tires. Some people add a little bit of weight to the back of their car, in the trunk of their car. Volvos are inherently pretty heavy cars. I don't know that that's really necessary, but if you wanted to add like a 50-pound bag of kitty litter or sand or something to give you a little bit of extra traction, the one thing I'd want to do is make sure that it is I wouldn't put something like cinder blocks in the car, because I'd be worried that, and people do. I have seen cement blocks and patio blocks and all kinds of stuff in people's cars. For extra traction, I would worry about what would happen if you got into a crash. I worry a little less about a bag of sand, because I think it would break open and it would just make a mess inside the car. So, but other than that, that's really all I would do with a rear-wheel drive car. And congratulations on your Volvo 240.
Yes, I don't know how much longer it'll be there, but thank you. Thank you. And I do have the 4 winter tires.
Perfect. So you're all set.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? No? Okay. Well, thank you for coming.
Could I ask one last question?
Sure.
Do you have any advice on knowing the geography of where you're going if you have to go? For instance, Route 1 from Danvers to Ipswich is very hilly. But I remember one snowy day where we couldn't get out of Boston area early. I dropped my rider off in Danvers, And then knowing about these hills, I took the I-95 route and went past Masconomet and took a back way.
Yeah.
It was narrow, but it was flat. And I heard later that the hilly area, some people got stuck going up those hills, and they took forever. Took me an
Yeah,
hour.
I mean, other than today, it's a little bit easier with technology. You can, for instance, use, you know, Apple Maps or Google Maps, and it will tell you if there's a delay. And in some cases, Waze, same. I'm not a huge Waze fan, so but it'll tell you if there's a delay caused by, say, someone stuck in the snow, for instance, or a crash. So it'll give you a little bit of an idea. And if you know, for instance, that the drive from Boston to Ipswich takes you normally 35 minutes, and you look and you put in where you put in your home destination, and it says an hour and a half. Well, you know, because of that there's something causing it. So maybe you can, you know, try an alternative route and see if that route makes it a little bit shorter. So, and if that's the case, maybe that means that road's clearer, or it's been plowed or sanded, or it didn't have the snow. It didn't this past snowstorm. I live about 25 miles south of Boston. We only got about 1.5 inches or 2 inches of snow. 15 miles away, we got 11 inches of snow. So you never know what just a little bit of a change in where you're headed can bring you into winter conditions. So, you know, and you're not going to get that from WBZ radio and the traffic report, because they're not going to tell you about, you know, that one section of road usually. So sometimes the technology can be a helpful thing when it comes to navigating in winter weather. That help? And this is just a plug. If you get bored on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock, tune into North Shore 104.9, and I talk about cars for an hour. So on the radio station.
What time is that? What
10
time?
o'clock. 10 o'clock on Saturday.
Thanks.
Great.
So 104.9. So.
That was a very thorough presentation. Thank you. Thank
Oh,
you very
sure
much.
thing. Sure thing. All right. Well, in that case,
I want to
nobody-
say thank you. This was a wonderful review for a person who's been driving a long time.
Well, you know,
Thank
and
you.
everybody needs a little bit of a review sometimes, and you know, just thinking about, you know, driving in the wintertime. And I'm amazed at, you know, we're New Englanders. It snows all the time, and I'm pretty sure it's going to snow some more. But somehow, some of us forget what
I
it's
think
like.
tonight actually.
Great.
Great. Yeah. So again, my best piece of advice is, if you don't have to go out, don't do it. All right. Well, thank you all very much. And again, if you need to get a hold of me, jpaul@aanortheast.com or AAA.com/cardoctor. And if you have, you know, if you belong to a Kiwanis or Rotary or, you know, some organization, and you think I would be interesting as a guest speaker, let me know. I'd be happy to Zoom with you too.
Done.
All right. Take care, everyone. Be well and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
All right.
Good
Bye-bye.
night. Good
Thank
night.
Good night.
Done.
Good night.
Bye-bye.